Good morning and welcome to another edition of the Daily Fix. I'm your usual host and presenter, Advocate Tulu Hoyani. What a day it was at the Victoria High Court yesterday. And Munisi was on a roll. Let me give you the scenario how it came about. Munisi was cross-examining Gininda. You know how evasive Gininda is. Gininda's, style of answering has always been, that long-winded an explanatory style of answering questions, which I've got problems with. Gininda will never stick to an answer. If you ask him about a gun, Gininda will give you the history of guns. So Gininda will always explain and explain and explain and explain and explain, which thing I think is unacceptable. Some questions or legal questions sometimes require simple and straightforward answers. So Omnisi had him cornered. He asked him about Ikabani. That's a standard police manual that deals with how suspects are supposed to be handled upon the arrest. Typical of Gininda, he never owned up to knowing that book because he could foresee that there was cross-examination coming. Had he were he to say he's aware of the existence of such a book, because he knew where Mdisi was going. You see, Mdisi was saying in your interrogation of accused number 2, Bongani Ntanzi, you never followed standard procedures as per Ikabani, as set out in that police manual. And Gininda had to, tail between his legs, so to speak, say that he's not aware of that manual or that booklet. And Munisi was saying to him, how can you not be aware of something, that every, Tom, Dick, and Harry policeman must be aware of? He likened it to, the uniform rules of court, to, an advocate who is just not being aware of the uniform rules of court. And Munisi rightly said to him, and in an indirect manner said, you have no business being a cop if, you have no idea what that book is all about. So we saw a spirited, denial by Gininda until Baloyi rose up. Baloyi rose up to say, no, these are collateral issues. But with all respect to Baloyi, these are not just side issues. These are not collateral issues. Because, the way policemen approach a suspect at the time that they arrest him must follow certain standard procedures. They don't just arrest a person and then, follow the procedures afterwards, which is exactly what Baloyi was trying to suggest, because Baloyi was trying to suggest, they don't stick to those procedures. They don't, do all those things. All that Gininda was doing is to, go ahead with an investigation. But where does the investigation start? Because if it starts unlawfully, without following standard procedures, Baloyi had better be aware that there's something wrong with it. But Advocate Minisi never took it any further because he was coming, to the end of his cross-examination. Personally, I thought my own feeling was that he should have gone, deeper into, what that booklet is all about, challenged him on all the nitty-gritty of what was not done when Tanzi was being interrogated, right? Because you see, an interrogation by the police is not like, the police just doing as they please on a suspect. There are certain standard procedures which they've got to follow. They've got to make him aware of his rights, his legal rights to right to legal representation. They've got to make him aware that he's at liberty to make or not to make a speech, a lot of those things. And clearly, Gininda was saying, no, we didn't follow those procedures. As far as we are concerned, this was the law. And I'm not aware of that book or manual that you're talking about, Never seen Gininda being so evasive, But he was being evasive for a reason, because you could see where Minisi was taking him. Because had he owned up to knowing this book, I bet Minisi would have torn him to pieces. But even though he professed not to know anything about this booklet, how does a brigadier not be aware? How does a brigadier, how is a brigadier not aware of, standard police procedures like that? That is what was shocking. And, the only deduction one can make of it is that, Gininda was simply just being evasive for his own convenience because, Minisi was really giving him a tough time. But be that as it may, the Senzo Meyiwa case is rolling on now. It's rolling on and it's getting very interesting, you know, and we are seeing a lot of some kind of panic by the prosecution when, witnesses are being cross-examined because, Baloyi would always stand up and object and, these objections, and it just becomes an exchange between Minisi and Baloyi. At the end of the day, the judge does not make a ruling. I don't know what kind of, procedure this is. He just keeps on saying, let us get on, let us get on. Okay, you'll argue that at a later stage. Mr. Judge, this is what ought to happen. When an objection is raised, the other party stands up and, he replies, the other one answers. After that, a ruling is made. I've always said this, and going forward, we know that this issue is settled. Now, how do you just go on just abandoning issues like that, without, making rulings, and it all becomes a bit messy, very, very messy. But I think, all in all, Nisi did a good job. He did a good job because it exposed Gininda, that Gininda is knowledgeable selectively. When it suits him, he can be so knowledgeable and makes those long-winded answers. But this time around, Minisi gave him no chance to be, long-winded and pompous. And, Gininda is the sort of guy who wants to lecture the court. And unfortunately, the court has been letting him give lectures, long lectures about so many other issues. Now, the chariot moves on. Here's the Senzo Meyiwa trial. We are back again. Let's move on and see and gallop ahead and bring you coverage and analysis. Thank you for watching. Thank you for the subscriptions that I'm seeing. And thank you for the subscriptions that I know are coming. Have a nice and wonderful day.